All right, let's do this cacao live. Erin will be joining me momentarily. We already have some questions about ceremonial cacao that have been submitted, and we'll be answering more questions live. So ask us anything about cacao, about the Cacao Portal experience that we're launching this Sunday, anything about ritual, ceremony, and frequency healing. Erin, who's joining me, she was a guest on Woken Wired last week. We talked all about cacao and frequency healing. And I see that my friend Asha Patel joined. I'm actually wearing her crystals. I always intuitively in the morning pick which crystals I want to work with throughout the day or just be with throughout the day. And today I was really drawn to moonstone and to rose quartz. And I know that rose quartz is about opening up heart chakra. And moonstone is all about psychic abilities and intuition and thinning the veil. Right, Asha? Did I get that right? There she is.
Hey,
Hey.
good morning to you.
Thank you. We're just talking about crystals. Wi-Fi because my Wi-Fi is not cooperative, but we got some really amazing questions already.
Great. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, hey Anna.
Yeah.
Hey Nico. All right, so before we go into the Q&A with some questions that we got about cacao, and guys, you can just drop in any questions. There's a little question tab, but there's also comments. So whatever you feel called to share. That's cool. I'm loving this question feature. This is the first time I'm seeing it. A more convenient way to collect and answer questions on Instagram Lives than just comments.
Nice.
Because comments just keep rolling, and questions can't.
I know, and then you miss them.
Exactly. So I'm seeing lots of conscious social media program faces.
Yay.
So cool. That's
I
how
know, I love
Erin and I
it.
actually met in the conscious social media program that she took in January with me. We talked about that on Woken My podcast as well. And then we just connected over our love for ceremonial cacao and rituals and healing. And we were guided by the spirit of this fruit that some of you may recognize, the cacao pod that my friend Florencia gave me. We were guided to create a 5-week experience that will give you a chance to experience all the magic that we have been feeling working with cacao.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing people joining who are already signed up for Cacao Portal. It's so awesome. For those who are coming on this live who are already signed up, tell us, what are you the most excited about?
Ooh, I love
working
that
with
question.
cacao and with us.
I was saying to a friend today, go ahead.
I was going to give the mic to you because I just poured my cacao and I have my altar set up. Let me actually show you my little altar set up, and then perhaps you can take over and talk about cacao. So we just got these crazy air plants. I've never seen anything like this.
Those are beautiful.
And this is one plant. This is one plant. For perspective.
That is
amazing. How crazy is this?
That's
this
amazing.
is going to be our chandelier. And then on my altar today for this cacao ritual, I have a cacao pod. This is my business crystal, copper. Lots of pyrite for confidence and fairy stones for connecting with the joyful realms and fairy realms. Some selenite for energy cleansing and Lemurian quartz. Just no big deal. Millions of years of healing and knowledge and wisdom.
That's amazing. I'm super jealous of this beautiful altar because as like the nomad that I am, I hardly ever have stuff like that with me anymore. But I used to joke with everybody back in the day. I used to actually carry around like bags of crystals with me. And so I always used to tell people my entire luggage weight was cacao and crystals. Like that was it. It's the only things I had. And my guitar. That was like the end of my luggage.
How much cacao do you travel with?
It depends how long I'm going to be gone and where I'm going. Like this time I only brought 10 blocks with me, which is still a lot because it's 10 pounds in your backpack, which is heavy. But I didn't think I was going to be in Asia very long. So I took 10 pounds thinking, well, before I leave, I'll sell it to people or whatever. But now I'm super grateful I brought 10 pounds because I'm probably going to use all 10 pounds myself, being like stuck out here now for as long as I have been. So, but originally I used to take like 40 to 50 pounds in a suitcase with me. It was pretty crazy.
That is crazy. Okay, I
I know.
have to show you the bubbles. So one of the questions we got was, should I, and I'm going to pull them up in my computer in a minute, but one of the questions was, do you recommend experimenting with different brands? And Erin and I have, well, somewhat similar, somewhat different opinion on that. And that's one of the reasons we're so excited to partner on bringing the Cacao Portal experience to you together. Because it's 5 weeks of cacao rituals, cacao knowledge, ceremony, frequency healing. And Erin has been working for many, 7+ years with Keith's cacao, which is a particular cacao from Guatemala, created by a man also known as a chocolate shaman. And I have many brands that I love and support and think that they're high integrity. And the one that I'm using today, let me just show you. So there's lots and lots of bubbles. I think when I see lots of ceremonial bubbles, it's a good omen.
Yes.
And I don't know how I think it's extra rainbowy because I put some cacao butter in it.
Ooh.
So it's confetti.
Love it.
And let me show you the cacao I'm using is this beautiful cacao from Guatemala. It comes in this bag. It's called Legacy Cacao. It comes in this handmade Mayan bag. Gorgeous branding. I mean,
it is.
Wildcat.
That's amazing.
And what I also really love about it is that on each bag that you get, it has the Mayan calendar day on which it was produced. So
that's amazing.
Kind of encapsulates and amplifies the energy that it's infused with. And I know that every bag that they send out, before they send it out, they actually bless it. They like hand massage the clumps and they bless it. So this is just one of the ones that I love, and one of the reasons, you know, the invitation, and Erin, I want you to speak to this in a moment too. But one of the reasons I think it's so cool to experiment with different brands is because there's not like the right one or the best one. There's so many amazing humans bringing this medicine into the world. And just like, you know, there's not just one self-help book on the market. There's not one Paulo Coelho. I mean, there is one Paulo Coelho, but there's not just one person. There's different modalities and energies that speak to different people. And as we move through different phases of our own lives and our spiritual evolutions, our business evolution, it's really cool to work with different frequencies of how cacao is being presented, because you just never know what's going to come out.
100%. And they all are so unique. It's like they all have their own personalities, which I think is so great. And I wish I was in the US right now, because I actually would love to be trying even more brands, because there's so many new brands even now coming out that I've never worked with or heard of. But yeah, as Ksenia said, I've worked with Keith's for a really long time, since like 2013 now. Although even I had like a year or so where I didn't drink cacao almost at all. And I felt my body just said like a big no to it. And I think part of that was that I was integrating it on an even deeper level, and that like my body didn't want to actually physically consume it anymore. And luckily that went away. It only was like a year or two. But during that time, I noticed that I would try other kinds of ceremonial cacao and have an easier time with other kinds of ceremonial cacao than Keith's. And then of course I opened back up to drinking it again, and then I was totally back on the Keith's train, because for me that's just always been my one. I've developed a relationship with it, and I think that's the thing. It's like, which ones have you developed a relationship with and why? And we all have our own story of that, you know. And Keith's was the first one I ever worked with, and it was the one that grabbed my heart, and it was the one that spoke to me, and so it's just been the one that I've carried with me all these years, you know.
I love that. So one of the questions that we got is, I just ordered some fly cacao. I wonder, how do I prepare it? And then another question is, what do I do with the paste when I get cacao in these like blocks? I can actually show you guys how it comes. So sometimes, like the one that I just showed you, the Legacy, it comes as already, it's a powder. So it's already been shredded for you. So it's
wow, okay.
Fun. Right. Nice. And it's pre-mixed with spices. Now, there's other brands I'm about to show you as I get all of these make a big mess on the fridge. That's okay. Okay. So the one I'm about to show you
Yeah,
is Cacao Lab,
most of the ones I've seen just
and
come
that
as a big
comes
block.
right. So usually the ones that come in the block are not mixed with anything. They're totally pure. So that's just pure chocolate product as it comes from the bean as a paste. And that's how Cacao Lab comes, and that's also how Keefs comes. So this is how Cacao Lab comes. It's 1 kilo. It's a lot. And one of the reasons I love it is because it comes in this enormous chocolate bar that looks like your Alice in
I
Wonderland.
know, that's so cool.
You just get like chocolate the size of your face.
Amazing. I
Literally.
love it.
So same with Cacao Lab. This is pure cacao. There's nothing added. Same with Keef's cacao, pure cacao, no spices, nothing added. Same with Firefly. Well, some Firefly have rose added and other spices and superfoods. But no matter what it is, what you do is you take the paste, you chop it. With Firefly, you don't have to do that because it's discs. Most of the time, if it's a block, you chop it. I usually try to keep a small batch outside the fridge so that it's not totally cold when I'm blending it, so it kind of gets to room temperature. The rest of it I usually keep in the fridge just to preserve freshness. And I'm feeling the cacao kick in, so I'm speaking really fast. And so you chop it, and I usually have a dedicated chopping board like Florencia taught me in our cacao facilitated training to have a dedicated board just to cacao. So there's this ritual ceremonial aspect to it, and so that it doesn't take in flavor of like onions or leeks or whatever you're cutting. And so you chop it up.
That's true.
You put it in either a blender or a pot. You don't really need to have a blender. And then you add your favorite sweetener, your favorite spices, and you just blend it. And usually what I use is either raw honey that my grandma hooks me up with for sweetener, or monk fruit if I want to keep it low on glycemic index, or I'm doing a cleanse. And then I add a little bit of cayenne, a little bit of either cardamom if I'm feeling like I need to cool down like right now, or some cayenne if I want some heat. So, and then you just blend it for 30 seconds, or you whisk it in a pot. If you don't have a blender, that's totally fine. And it's going to melt perfectly. And it's just going to become this creamy, delicious concoction. So that's how I usually make it. Don't be intimidated by the paste. It's just chocolate that's not been melted and put into a shape that you want it to be in. But I would love to hear from you, Erin, because you actually introduced me to adding oat milk to your cacao. I'd never heard about that before.
Oh, I'm so obsessed with it. In fact, being out in Asia, like the hardest thing for me is that I don't have oat milk right now. It's like the worst. But no, I've gone through so many phases over the years with how I make cacao. And I always tell people it's a really personal thing. You know, like it's really like your way of doing it and finding what feels good to you and playing with it and coming up with new ways. So like when I first learned about cacao, I was super basic. Like I would always do it in water, and I would just do it on the stove because that's how we drank it in Guatemala. In fact, Keith's cacao, like way back in the day, used to even be like so goopy. Like it was just like, it was not tasty. Like it was like a glob of cacao and water, you know, and it was just like get it out to as many people as he could. So it was like just kind of done on the stove, and, you know, so sometimes you'd literally be like choking it down even. But it was, so I was not fancy with my cacao for a long time because that was just how I learned about it. And it wasn't until like a few years in that I discovered the blender, and I was like, oh my God, you know, it was like light bulbs went off, and I was like, wow, cacao in the blender is amazing. Because I actually have friends that prefer to make it on the stove still to this day, just because I think a lot of people like the actually like whisking it and going through the motions and feeling like you're involved in the making of your cacao. So I totally get that. But then I also started experimenting, like cacao is a carrier medicine. So whatever you pair with it, it's going to amplify. So whatever herbs you're into, whatever things like you feel really drawn to, and I always tell people to experiment, you know, like what feels good to you. Like I'm really
with
into
that, Erin, will you speak to Rose with that?
Yeah, well, rose is a heart opener. And so I actually sometimes make a tea, either out of rose or out of dandelion, because dandelion's really grounding. So I really like to pair that something grounding with my cacao usually. So I make like a rose tea, and then I'll actually just put that into the blender with the cacao, and it's really, really delicious. But you can also just sprinkle rose petals on top because it's pretty.
Exactly.
But
So,
it is a heart opener, so it'll amplify that heart opening effect.
right. So rose is the heart opener. Cacao itself is a huge heart opener. So together, I feel like when I'm in a place where I'm just all over the place and I'm not really present for myself or Eric, I make us a little cacao ceremony with extra rose just to like sink
Oh,
in. Like there's nothing else but love. Everything else can wait. It's okay. And it actually makes a difference, like on a frequency level. So
yeah,
amazing questions are pouring in.
I
Mark
know. We
asked,
could be here all day.
I know. So that's what we're doing the training because we're going to be
I
answering all these
know.
questions every
There's
week.
so many good questions.
But we're going to cover as much as possible. So don't you worry. Even if you're not joining us for the cacao portal that starts this Sunday, you're welcome here. And we just are obsessed with sharing the cacao medicine.
Yep.
So the question from Mark is how much caffeine
I
cacao
saw
has?
that.
Because the more it has, the more your body craves more. And Mark just had his birthday. He's my nephew last week. So happy birthday, Mark.
Oh,
And when
hey.
you come visit, I'll make you cacao. Don't you worry.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that question because cacao is a really interesting thing where it varies what kind of cacao you have, how much caffeine you're going to take in through cacao. Because actually, like the kind of cacao you buy, like a cacao bar at the store, like a random chocolate bar, does have a fair amount of caffeine in it. Still not as much as, say, like coffee or some of these other things, but it does have caffeine in it. But when you're buying really high grade ceremonial cacao, it does not have as high of caffeine and it has much higher theobromine. And a lot of these top ceremonial brands actually have sometimes 3 times the amount of theobromine that, you know, any other cacao or chocolate you'd buy on the market has. So I'm super caffeine sensitive. And it's one of the reasons I'm really particular to Keith's is because Keith's like doesn't give me a caffeine feeling at all. Like no part of me gets spazzy or in my brain. And it has a really high theobromine amount. So for me, it just feels like the best on my body because it just gives me sort of a body high, which theobromine doesn't absorb across the blood-brain barrier in the same way caffeine does. It's much slower. So like your body gets this like expanded feeling. It thins your blood. It's almost like taking a baby aspirin. So it's a completely different thing. And it
How
doesn't
do you
have the
know what it's
same.
like to take baby aspirin? Just asking.
Look, haven't you ever taken an aspirin?
No.
It thins your blood. That's what an aspirin does. That's why they tell people over 50 to take aspirin like every day. They take them to take baby aspirin every day because it's like nicer on your body. But I got my dad off of doing that because he had high blood pressure and he was taking baby aspirin every day because his doctor told him to do it. And I was like, no, you just need to drink cacao instead. And his blood pressure's actually gone down. So, you know, what can we say? But yeah, so there's a very low caffeine amount is the very easy answer to that question. But it'll give you a different kind of high, so to speak, through the theobromine.
I love that. So, theobromine is like a cousin of caffeine. And I agree with you in my experience as well. When I drink coffee, I love coffee. I still drink coffee. Listen, I talk a lot about replacing coffee with cacao, and I do that a lot of the days. A video that I made about that on TikTok went viral, and someone as a result called me Karen, and I'm still recovering from that. If you don't know what Karen is, it's like a middle-aged, annoying white woman meme.
Oh no.
Anyway, but my experience is that with coffee, that you do always crave more. It's very addictive. Cacao is
Yes.
addictive, but there's not really downsides that we know of. And someone also asked, can you drink it? Should you drink it every day? And it's really so different for everyone. We all respond to it differently. So the invitation is to just ask your body, what do I feel like right now? Would it serve me to drink a cup of cacao? Like that itself is a way of working with cacao and tuning into your intuition. When you drink it, all of that kind of amplifies. But when your body is telling you, no, not today, I need to take a break. And sometimes it's that day for me. That's
Yeah.
a way to stand in your power and connect to your intuition in itself.
Totally. And one of the things that I noticed is I was very addicted to coffee, in my 20s when I had a normal job and was doing the whole New York thing. And it took me a couple of years to get myself off coffee. And it was so hard. And so I've never had that same thing with cacao. Like I love it and I could easily joke that I'm addicted to cacao because I crave it and I want it. But I also can very easily say no to it. Like if I have a day where I'm like, yeah, this isn't a day for it, I cannot have it and I'm completely fine. Whereas when I was addicted to coffee, that was not the case. I was not fine if I didn't have it, you know? So to me, that shows a real difference.
Definitely. And it's so interesting. Mark is saying he just read a book about caffeine yesterday. Would love to hear the name of the book if you could drop it in the chat. I know Michael Pollan just wrote a very interesting book about coffee and where it came from that I'm planning to read. But Mark is saying that caffeine lasts 8 to 12 hours, causing you to get 15 to 20% less deep sleep. Can totally see that. With cacao, we know that the active components stay in your bloodstream for about 6 hours. So generally, I would say depends on your sensitivity again, but try not to have it past 7, 8 p.m. When I do, I know I stay up until 2 to 3 a.m. A lot of things get done. A lot of things get done. Like creativity just opens, ideas open, and things get done. I don't even know how. Cacao just really activates and stimulates that in me. But if you want to get sleep and you need to wake up for something, definitely not recommend having it after 7 p.m.
Although, you know what's funny is I have drank big doses of cacao later in the evening, and actually, because it moves so much energetically for me and like so much happens, I've actually gone right to sleep. And I could never do that with a coffee. Like if I had a coffee at night, forget about it. I'd be up like all night. Whereas like I have friends that can drink coffee at night and they're fine. So I think it's a really interesting thing where it really depends on people's body types and how they process things, you know? But it definitely is not going to feel like a coffee. It's a very different kind of experience.
While I'm pulling up more questions that came in, I would also love to quickly talk about cacao and the dream world. There's certain spices and plants, sorry, not spices, plants that we can mix cacao with if you're really called to amplify your work in the dream world and get vivid dreams and get messages through sleeping.
Wow.
That herb is blue lotus. It's a beautiful purple looking flower and it tastes delicious. The longer you steep it, the more potent it will be. But when I've made cacao with blue lotus, sometimes I have like very soft messages I get in my dreams. Sometimes it's the craziest things. So again, just like start very small and gauge your sensitivity and just see what you're drawn to. Maybe you're not drawn to it at all. Maybe you're drawn to just drink pure cacao. Maybe you're drawn to try rose or maca, which is a hormone stabilizer. And I know, Erin, you're a big fan of maca.
It's funny, there's like a whole nother world of cacao mixed with herbs. You know, like it's like a whole nother tunnel that you can go down because there's so many synergistic herbs that work so well with cacao being the amplifier that it is. And so it's like whatever your body is needing, whatever you're working with, it's like you can just play with so many things. And usually when people first start with cacao, I encourage them to go as simple as possible just to start to get to know the plant in itself and how it works with your body, and then start slowly adding things in. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of maca. I've actually been doing a lot of ashwagandha in my cacao because ashwagandha is also a hormone stabilizer and a mood stabilizer. And I've been calling in like more, de-stressing and peace. And so ashwagandha has kind of been my partner with my cacao lately, but it changes all the time.
Just don't overdo it because it tastes so bad. So
yeah,
bad.
It doesn't taste good. I use like a very small amount. I've actually been surprised how much it hasn't bothered me.
So for those who are just joining us, we are just creating this little 30-minute portal to answer any cacao questions, as well as answer any questions about the upcoming 5-week cacao portal experience that Erin and I are leading starting this Sunday, where we'll have weekly cacao ceremonies and you'll get all the materials and space that you need to deepen your relationship with cacao and how you work with it, how you play with it, and upgrade your own rituals. And even if you can't join us, I actually just looked at the list of questions. We've already covered everything. So we have a couple minutes left. If there's any last minute questions, we'll be on the lookout for it. But I also want to see, Erin, if you're called to, there's a couple more questions. Let's do that. And then, Erin, let's get to, if you're called to share maybe a song or a tone or something like that.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Let's see. I do have my guitar sitting right here.
All right, it's a sign. So
it could
Anna
be a
says,
sign.
thoughts on small kids having it, is it safe? I would say, when I've been in cacao circles with my teacher, they just get a kid's dose, so a very small amount. like probably a third or a quarter of what you would have. What would you say, Erin?
Definitely, I would say the exact same thing. Definitely safe, totally safe. It's just, you know, like with anything with a small child, you do not want to give them a full dose of anything. So,
Mm.
yeah, like a quarter or, you know, even a little less, see how they handle it, see if it, you know, but I have friends whose kids drink ceremonial cacao and they don't actually seem so affected by it. Like it doesn't make them crazy or make them, which is very interesting. I thought
Mm.
that was kind of fascinating.
Mm.
Um,
So
but yeah.
Kathleen says, do you know how maca is with overactive thyroid? I would think, I don't have the answer, and this is not medical advice.
Yeah.
I would think that it's not the best choice because maca generally affects your hormone production. So with overactive thyroid, I would just be extremely careful and consult with your doctor.
Definitely. I think thyroids are very tricky and always consult a doctor or an herbalist on that because, yeah.
Hmm. Anna, yeah, I hear what you're saying that your kids are not into, Annabelle's not into the taste of cacao, but you're going to try putting in honey. I've introduced cacao to my whole family. None of them liked it as much as I love it. But I think it's like on an energetic level, it's something that you need to be drawn to, but also there's ways to get into it by adding more milk, adding more sweetener, you know, to a
Yes.
degree.
I have never made someone a cacao in oat milk with sweetener that they have not enjoyed. I will tell you that. Because that just makes it taste like a creamy hot chocolate latte. But yeah, I agree with you, Ksenia, that it is kind of an energetic thing because I have people that tell me they really don't like things that are bitter, but they actually like the bitter flavor of cacao and they don't like to sweeten it. And then I have people that tell me like usually they hate that and they have to sweeten it. And you know, it's like everybody seems to have like what you enjoy in dessert and chocolate isn't necessarily aligned with what you will enjoy with your ceremonial cacao. It seems to be a really
Mm.
particularly different experience or something.
Mm. All right, it's song time.
Oh man, you're gonna put me on the
Oh,
spot.
and one more question that keeps coming up. How long does cacao keep? I know, Erin, you have a good story on that. I've kept mine for up to probably a year and it's been fine in the fridge.
Yeah, I've kept mine for literally like 4 to 5 years. Like that sounds aggressive. Keith's is actually only guaranteed for 2 years. That's like their statement on it. But I have literally made and served cacao that was like 3 to 4 years old, and it's totally fine. Um, Actually, what will happen is that cacao naturally separates and blooms, as they call it. So the fat separates out and it creates like these white swirls. And sometimes your cacao block will be very crumbly, and sometimes it'll be very solid and almost moist seeming. And it actually doesn't mean anything about whether the cacao is good or not. It's just because there's no stabilizers in the cacao. And so sometimes it changes its form and how it settles. And the only way I would say don't have it is if there's mold on it, which I actually did have my first ever molded cacao block just this time
How
in Thailand.
how would you identify that?
Oh, you could tell. It was like the outside was totally white with mold. And it was because I had let it melt in the car and then reformed and then put it in the fridge and it got moist and it was like a whole thing. So that was the only reason that it happened. I've
Mm.
never in all my years of working with cacao had one go moldy before. But I actually even just chopped most of the mold off and still used it. So
Desperate.
I was like, it's like cheese, you know, like just cut the mold off.
That's
Like, it's
hilarious.
okay.
So
But
people
yeah,
are
that would
asking
be the only thing.
if we're going to share the replay of this. Yes, it will be on my profile for the next 24 hours.
Oh,
All right.
nice.
And also, you know, we go a lot deeper into a lot of these things on Woke and Wired podcast, episode 101 from last week. Erin was my guest, and we share deeper our journeys with cacao and our intentions for this experience that we're co-creating.
Yay.
Okay, so just so you know,
Okay.
Erin has the most magical voice, and she knows all the songs that in me activate cacao even further. So this is just a selfish request that Erin sings for us, and whoever benefits from it,
Oh,
you're in for a treat.
oh, thank you. Well, I hope I know this one well enough to sing it. I've just been brushing up on it because I hadn't sung it in so many years. So bear with me. Might not be perfect, but we're gonna go with it. Okay, this one's called Agua de Estrellas, and yeah, it's been a while. But one of the things with cacao and music is, do you know how to make it if your computer is not plugged in, that it doesn't turn off after a certain amount of time? I don't know how to do that. I know, because it keeps turning off when I'm trying to read the lyrics. I forget the lyrics to this one sometimes.
Freestyle.
Okay, we're gonna go with it. Music really can help move medicine. So it's one of the most magical ways to move the energy of medicine whenever you're working with anything. Herbs, cacao, doesn't matter. So use this moment to just take in whatever moves in you energetically. And tu soste guanfinita, se venen les estrellitas, mama. And tu soste guanfinita, se venen les estrellitas, mama. Agua de luz, agua de estrellas, la chunana ven el cielo. Agua de luz, agua de estrellas, la chunana ven el cielo. Limpia, limpia, limpia el corazón, agua brillante, sana, sana, sana el corazón, agua bendita, calma, calma, calma el corazón, agua del cielo, mamá. En tus ojos de agua infinita se ven las estrellitas, mamá. En tus ojos de agua infinita se ven las estrellitas, mamá. Agua de luz, agua de estrellas, la chumama ven este cielo. Agua de luz, agua de estrellas, la chumama ven este cielo. Limpia, limpia, limpia corazón, agua brillante, sana, sana, sana corazón, agua bendita, calma, calma, calma corazón, agua del cielo, mamá. En tus ojos de agua infinita se ven las estrellitas, mamá.
Whew. So
Love some medicine music.
As soon as you started singing, my tears started pouring down, like uncontrollable.
Oh.
And it's so crazy because, you know, cacao really does that. Like, I wasn't aware of anything that needed to move. I didn't have the intention of crying or moving anything, but when we create that space and we sit with cacao, and especially if you add music on top, oof, like things move. And it says my second chakra and heart chakra are dancing. I don't know what, like something, it's just moving. Like tears are such a beautiful way to move energy. And wow, thank you.
Yeah, I love that. You know, I just read something recently. I think I even sent it to you about the different kinds of tears and how they've looked at tears under high-powered microscopes. And when people cry for different reasons, the molecules, like the crystals of the water, look different. So when people shed tears of gratitude or like tears of sadness or grief, like they all have a different composition. So tears are just this beautiful way to move all of the energy from our body and release and open and allow things to flow. And cacao is just like the best for doing that. Like you said, you don't even have to know why you're crying. It's just like, oh, something wants to move, and now I feel better. And music is just such an incredible portal for that, which is why I work with sound and music, you know. And I just feel like sharing really quickly that I had one of the last ayahuasca ceremonies that I ever did. I was shown this in the ceremony because I was singing in the ceremony. And I was shown that energetically, when I'm singing in a ceremonial setting, it opens a portal that invites through all of the energy that wants to come through, whatever blessings are there for people, whatever's meant to go to people. And then I would watch it go to each person energetically. And then it would kind of come back to me in like this beautiful, like equal exchange. And it was like something that stayed with me forever now with all the things that I do. It's the magic of what music and medicine, you know, will do in those situations.
So how do I submit my tears? Who do I send them to be examined?
I know. I want to do this with everything. I'm dying to get high-powered microscope crystals of all things. So if you find it, let me know.
So one more thing I want to say before we close this little circle is that, like, if an Instagram live that's this open container that anyone can join, that is very last minute, if that can move things in this way, like I'm seeing all these comments of the things that are moving in you guys, imagine what it's like to be for 5 weeks in a closed container with people who like 100% committed to this experience with not just music, but also frequency healing and toning from Erin. That's what I'm just like the most excited about that. And I trust that whoever's meant to be in that circle will be. We already have 10 people. Everyone is so amazing. I've been reading everyone's onboarding questions, and everyone's just on such a different and such a deep path. So that's the final thing I wanted to share.
I love that. And should we remind everybody about our special until tomorrow? Or is it? Or it's until tonight?
Today. Yeah.
Today. Yeah, so we are gifting a block of ceremonial cacao. If you sign up by the end of today, that will be a free gift included in your sign up. So that's a pretty amazing thing if you ask me.
So when you sign up today, we already had a couple of people take advantage of that offer. When you sign up today, let's extend it by the end of the day. Just message one of us through any means. You know, Erin is Erin Eber. I'm at Where's Ksenia and Breakfast Criminals. Message us through any of these ways and tell us that you signed up today, and tell us your address, and we'll get it over to you.
Yep.
Amazing,
So
Erin.
I can't wait.
Love starting my day with some crying. Thanks for that.
Me too. I love chatting with anyone who's I was saying to someone today that it's so much fun that like I now have someone in my life who's as obsessed with ceremonial cacao as I am. It's like the best feeling ever. So, you know, we just can't wait to extend the family of, you know, ceremonial cacao lovers who all get to come together and play and experience and be in this container.
I'm so happy we found each other. And also like this is something I've never shared, but what I'm tapping into, I think with this 5-week experience, what we're creating is like the future of people gathering in person. You know, I have a gorgeous property in the forest in upstate New York, and we're building it out to be more like a compound where we can host people and host experiences. So like whoever becomes part of it, like we're creating the community of people who will be gathering around fire and drinking cacao and being in nature and sitting on rocks and talking to deer, which is all the things I usually do, but I want everyone to be doing with me.
I love it. I want to come talk to deer and drink cacao. That sounds fabulous. Right now I just drink cacao and stand in the ocean and make toning sounds, you know, so that too.
I love that. Erin, so one more request. People are asking that you send that tier article. So please share that on your story, perhaps.
I know. I have to see if I can find it because I really just like came across it randomly. So let me go back through my stuff and just I'll find it for you. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Just believe me.
Thank you, everyone, for the amazing questions, for your presence. And once again, you know, the cacao spirit really speaks to you and it tells you when you're ready. So if you're not joining the portal, like this was whatever you took away from this call is exactly what you were meant to receive. If you're really called to join, I really invite you to do it and honor that, the more steps we take towards following what feels right in our bodies and just trust that blindly. If it doesn't make sense, the more I find the universe kind of opens up and gives us even more of these breadcrumbs.
Yep.
But if not, like Erin and I are constantly sharing about cacao in other ways. So, you know, we don't know what's next. We don't have another experience planned so far. But you're welcome here as you are, wherever you are in your journey, even if you're just learning about this on this call. Like there was something new that was meant to learn it, and who knows what's to come.
And I always tell people too, like, I just would always encourage everyone to get a block of good quality cacao and try it for yourself and see how it makes you feel, because you'll know if it's something that calls to you, like pretty quickly, I think. Everyone I know who works with cacao, like they didn't take them long to start working with it and discover that it had something magical for them. So, you know, I think like, why not, you know, just give it a try and see how it feels. And the more people we have using high quality, intentional chocolate in the world, really the better, because the chocolate industry is pretty terrible. And this is the counter action of, you know, unconscious chocolate production. So it's just a good thing regardless.
I love that so much. I feel like you always complete the things that I didn't say but meant to say. So thank you.
This is why we work well together. We feed off of each other.
Awesome. Everyone's saying you learned so much. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
We'll be seeing you either in the portal or somewhere else, wherever we're meant to cross paths again.
Yep. See you guys soon.